this is going to be recorded, so just know that. That's why I'm using a microphone, and so we don't have anyone online yet, but we may. But we're going to be recording this so that it can be posted for anyone who would like the information at a later time. So, Amber, I'm good to go? All right, thank you. So thank you for joining us tonight on this windy night. Thank you for coming out. This is the SUSD Move On When Reading Information Night. So this information is directed at parents who may have received a letter called the Move On When Reading letter from the second benchmark assessment that was done in December. So thank you for coming. And I would like to introduce the team. We have reading specialists, and we have some members of the Sarita Family Reading Connection that we're going to be talking about later on. It's a fabulous community of parents and educators who come together once a month to talk about their students' struggles with reading so that we can support each other and learn from one another. And we also have the benefit of having a local expert on reading struggles attend those as well. Her name is Cheryl Anthony, and she's actually a dyslexia consultant. So I would like to, first of all, introduce our reading specialists. We have Joe Passett from SMS here. We have Kimberly Snyder from Copperview. We have Jana Turner from Soapery. We have Heather Alvarez, a parent at Soapery and member of the Family Reading Connection group. And we have Lisa Kogan, also a parent and member of the Family Connection group. And Jess Bonnier, who is our Student Services Director. And Brett Bonner, who is our Assistant Superintendent for Instructional Services. So we will go ahead with our slide presentation. I forgot to introduce myself. I always do. My name is Jan Spooner. I'm the district's EL and dyslexia coordinator. Our agenda tonight is to talk about the Move On When Reading letter and what Move On When Reading is. And then we're going to look at foundational reading skills for K-3, and then how you can support students at home. And then we will have a brief introduction to the Family Connection group, the Reading Connection group from one of our members. And then we'll have a chance for Q&A. And also anyone who's online will be able to submit questions online, which we will be able to respond to. We're going to start with a video. This comes directly from the Arizona Department of Education Move On When Reading site. And this is a brief video that just gives a really good overview of what Move On When Reading is.
Learning to read is the start of a lifelong adventure that will take children to many places near and far. The ability to read is the foundation for all learning. When students leave third grade with strong reading skills, they are better positioned for success in the classroom and in life. That's why Arizona established Move On When Reading, which helps parents and educators develop strong readers. Schools identify students who may struggle with early reading skills. Parents of students who are not reading on grade level are notified and given strategies and tools to support reading at home. Teachers receive training to ensure they have the knowledge and skills to teach all kids to read. Students are provided with targeted supports to meet their reading needs, starting in kindergarten. Their progress is monitored throughout the year to keep educators and parents up to date. At the end of third grade, students must demonstrate sufficient reading skills for promotion to fourth grade. Students who are retained receive an extra year of specialized support so they are ready to enter fourth grade as strong readers. Since the enactment of this policy, Arizona students have made steady progress, but there is still more work to do. Parents are key partners in supporting reading success. Here are 3 tips to make reading a fun part of your everyday activities. Read together for at least 20 minutes every day. Ask a teacher or librarian to help choose books that match your child's interests and reading level. Encourage your child to read during everyday activities, from street signs to recipes. Together, parents and teachers can help students meet important milestones so they can become strong readers who are prepared for the adventure ahead. Learning to read is the start of a
Okay, so we're just going to unpack that video and just do a bit of a summary. So move on when reading is a requirement by ADE of school districts that they identify K-3 students who are not making adequate progress in reading through screening. And parents are notified through the Move On When Reading Letter 2. And we'll be talking about that. Teachers receive training in evidence-based reading practices. Students are provided targeted support. And students' progress is monitored regularly by teachers. And parents are key partners, which is one reason why we do events like this. So parents, it's really important to know your part also in how you can support your children at home. Reading to your child for 20 minutes per day can do a lot to help support their reading. Ask your teacher or librarian for help in choosing books and make reading part of everyday activities. And we're going to be talking about what some of those activities might be. There we go. All right, so the Move On When Reading letter, if you received it, it has a lot of terminology that you likely don't understand because they really are specific to education. So we really want to make sure that parents understand what that terminology is. So benchmark is a term that is used to describe the measurement of a student's progress. So if a student is reading at benchmark, that means that they're reading at grade level. If they're reading below benchmark, they are not reading at grade level. When a student is significantly at risk, that means that they are reading far below grade level. And a diagnostic assessment is used to pinpoint specific areas of weaknesses and provides more in-depth information as to a student's instructional needs. And the tiered instruction. Tier 1 is core instruction for all students that takes place in the classroom by the classroom teacher. Tier 2 is targeted small group instruction based on students' instructional needs, and that is usually in the classroom with the classroom teacher as well. And then Tier 3 is targeted instruction for those students who are significantly at risk. It's targeted towards their skill deficits, and those are the students who are falling far below. This is usually the students who are in reading lab services. So we talk about foundational skills. So what are foundational skills? There are a lot of technical terms that are used to describe foundational skills. And if you received a letter, a Move On When Reading Parent Letter 2, it came with support for students that you can help, how you can help your students at home. It's a very long document filled with a lot of technical text. And so we're going to be breaking that down for you so that it's more understandable for you so that you can actually use it. So the terminology is surrounding the big five. So the big five foundational skills are phonemic awareness, phonics, fluency, vocabulary, and comprehension. And we're going to be having a look at each one of those just very briefly to give you an understanding of what they are and provide you with a little bit of background knowledge so that when you look at that text, all of that text that you receive in the letter for parent strategies, you might understand more of what you're reading. So first of all, phonological or phonemic awareness is a global awareness of speech sounds, like syllables, rhymes, individual sounds and words, segmenting them, being able to blend them, being able to manipulate them. So we'll give some examples here. So for example, cat has 3 sounds, k, a, t. When we do that, that's called segmenting the word into sounds. If we are talking about blending, then we're talking about taking those individual sounds and recognizing it as a word. K-at is cat. Cat rhymes with bat. That's another phonological skill. And onset and rhyme is another word or phrase that you will see in your document. And that is basically onset is the beginning sound of the word and the rhyme is what comes after. Syllables. Cat nap is made of 2 syllables. The first sound in cat is k. This is called initial sound fluency. And this is a very important beginning reading skill for students to be able to isolate that beginning sound in words. And then if we want to manipulate sounds in words, we just change a sound in the word. So we can turn cat into cot by changing that middle vowel sound. And that is considered a highly developed phonological skill to be able to do that. So when children have difficulty with phonological phonemic awareness, they have difficulty segmenting sounds, and they have difficulty identifying initial sounds. And they benefit from things like sound games, games like I Spy with my little eye, something beginning with ch, chair, for example. They benefit from counting the sounds in words, doing fun things like talking like a robot so that they can hear the individual sounds in words and blend it back into a real word. We are now going to take a look at a video of a little boy with his teacher, and they are doing a phonemic awareness activity. So you will see that this little boy, there's no letters involved. He's using little cars to manipulate as he says the sounds in words. So this is a phonemic awareness activity using manipulatives. And you'll spot a place in the video where he has a little struggle. And so if you recognize that struggle, that's very, very common. And his little struggle that you'll see is why this activity is really, really important.
Okay, so we're going to play a game that helps you hear all the sounds in the word. So you're going to use the cars to help you sound out the word. So like if we did the word mop, you would go aw. So you might not need all the cars. So you do the word mop, sound it out one sound at a time. Aw. Fantastic. Okay, let's try a different one. You sound out the word tap. Ah. Tap. Okay, great. Put all the cars back. Okay, I'm going to show you one with 4 sounds. It'll be the word stop. Ah. Okay, I want you to sound out the word stop. Ah. Fantastic. Okay, I'll give you a hard word with 4 sounds. Ready? It's going to be the word past. Ah. Ooh, that's such a hard one. Okay, let's do that one together. Ready? Ah. Great. Okay, now you do past. Ah. Fantastic. Okay, ready to sound out the word fast? Ah. Okay, great. Let's do one more. Great. A. Perfect. You did a great job. Okay, so we're going to
Okay, so he was doing a phonemic awareness skill there, and what you saw him struggle with was a phonological processing little glitch that he had when he got all those sounds jumbled in the word past. Now, if you can imagine, if he is a child that you're going to say, now, write this word, he would have written it something like PSTAT or something like that. So that's just an example of why it's so important that we know that students' phonological awareness skills are really, really solid. And because when it comes time to putting it down on paper in writing activities or spelling, having that ability to break words up into individual sounds in the correct order is going to help greatly, as well as with reading. So that's just an example of what can go wrong when we don't have solid phonological awareness skills. So we're going to look at basic reading and spelling skills now. And they involve letter recognition. And again, all of this is in the packet that you receive from the Move On When Reading resource letter. So letter recognition is simply recognizing the letters of the alphabet. And letter sound correspondence is then being able to match those letters to those sounds. So the foundational skill, we always start with phonemic awareness, phonological awareness. We have to know the sounds of our language first. We have to be able to isolate the individual sounds of our language first. And then we learn the letters that correspond with those sounds. So it kind of is something that takes place simultaneously. It's not that first we learn all our sounds and then we learn our letters. We learn them together so that we can begin to start matching the sounds with the letters that represent those sounds. And spelling, also called encoding, you'll see in your letter, and sounding out words, which is decoding, that is being able to apply the knowledge of that sound symbol correspondence to correctly write and read words. And then advanced phonics is understanding that there are a variety of spelling patterns for one sound. For example, a long A sound can be spelled A-I, it can be spelled A-Y, and it can be spelled in other ways as well. So as we get advanced in our knowledge of phonics, we learn all of those correspondences of letters that make individual sounds. And then segmenting syllables into words is being able to break words up into syllables. And then meaningful parts of words have to do with understanding how prefixes and suffixes change words. Having that knowledge can be really helpful when it comes to reading words that start to become really long as you get older. So children who have difficulty with these skills, they have difficulty with the letter sound correspondence. They might have a really, really hard time remembering what's that letter that makes the S sound. What is that letter? And children who are struggling readers often have a very difficult time with remembering what those correspondences are. And that's normal. That's childhood development. And so if a child is struggling with that, we give them lots of repetition. We give them lots of exposure. We give them a small set of letters first, and then that grows and grows as they gain knowledge. Nonsense word fluency is the ability to decode phonetic words that have no meaning in themselves, like VOG. This is phonetic reinforcement for students who have memorized a large number of words. And what we find is that students who struggle with reading also happen to sometimes have really, really good memories for long words, and not just the letters, but for the words too. And when they are young, they can memorize a lot of words. So they can fool us. We can think, hey, they're a great reader because they're reading fluently. My second grader, my third grader is a great reader. And then they get to fourth grade. There's no pictures in the text. The words are getting harder and harder. And all of a sudden, oh my goodness, what happened? They can't read. A child like that basically has been memorizing words up until the time that they can't anymore because the words are getting too long. That's the reason that we have nonsense word fluency as a part of our screening that we do for students. So if a student is able to read really, really well, and then they get to nonsense words and they don't know that word, that's not in my vocabulary. I've never seen that word before. I can't decode. And that's when we go, oh, we have a problem here. So we start assessing for this in kindergarten because we want to be able to catch this skill deficit as soon as we can so that we can start to fix it as early as possible. So students who have difficulty with these skills benefit from practicing learned phonics skills. We have to give them lots of exposure, lots of practice so that they can begin to master those sound symbol correspondences. Practice reading and writing words that have been learned. So we keep those words in their vocabulary. We keep practicing them. We don't put them away. And we practice reading nonsense words for phonetic reinforcement. So these are just some examples of phonics. So we can see ant. We can say ant. The child hears the word ant, and then with their phonological awareness and their phonics knowledge, they can say a-n-t. I know the letters that make those sounds. A-N-T. I can read that word, I can say it, and I can write it. And here's some examples of when things get a little bit more advanced, when we have more than one letter making a single sound. We have digraphs, R-controlled vowels. We have consonant digraphs. All right, moving on to reading fluency. That's the ability to read a text accurately and quickly with appropriate expression. But we want to be really, really careful that we don't try to get kids to read so quickly that they start stumbling over their words and they don't know what they're reading. So it's best to be accurate first and then fast. So to do that, they need to be able to recognize letters. They need to have speed and accuracy in sound symbol correspondence. They need to be able to break words into chunks like syllables. They have to be able to recognize prefixes and suffixes and reading words accurately. When they can read accurately, they're not stumbling, and so they don't lose that fluency. Reading phrases and passages with appropriate expression as well. So being able to do all that and have the appropriate expression. Okay. So when they have difficulty with fluency, they have difficulty with rapid naming. Now, rapid naming is a new measure that we just started this fall. It's a new measure in our screening process. And this is sometimes an indicator that a student may have characteristics consistent with dyslexia when they have difficulty quickly naming familiar symbols or objects. They also have difficulty with oral reading fluency, and that's being able to read accurately with the appropriate speed and expression. And they benefit from practice, practice, practice. Practice letter recognition, practice letter sound recognition, practicing identifying those syllables, those prefixes, those suffixes, practicing reading words that they have already learned, and practicing reading phrases and short passages with expression. And then moving on to whole text. So here's some examples of skills that can help with fluency. So understanding syllables, understanding that every syllable must have a vowel. That helps us break words up into syllables. Understanding prefixes and suffixes. We can make so many words with a root word and prefixes and suffixes. So being able to identify that root word and then the prefix or the suffix can really help expand children's vocabulary and their ability to read and write those words. So here's an example, just using the word joy. Of all of the words that can be made with the word joy. All right, so moving on to vocabulary. Vocabulary, first and foremost, is knowing that a word is a word. I know that that's a picture of a shoe. I know that those letters make the word shoe. And then word meaning, knowing what that word means. And then the morphemic elements of words. Those are syllables, compound words, and then again the prefixes and suffixes. When children have difficulty with vocabulary, they're having difficulty understanding word meanings. And that also might be including identifying syllables, compound words, and prefixes and suffixes. And they can benefit from matching pictures to words, acting out words, like guess my word, that's always a fun one. Practicing identifying different parts of words, and that's the syllables, compound words, prefixes, and suffixes. And of course, vocabulary obviously has lots to do with general language. The language that you use every day in speaking with your child can make a tremendous difference in their vocabulary. All right, now reading comprehension is understanding what you have read. That's being able to retell what was read. That means being able to identify the sequence of events, identifying characters, main ideas, and details. And a word that you will see in your Move On When reading literature is maze. And that is being able to choose the correct word out of 3 to fill in the blank in a passage. And then a close procedure, that word you will also see in your documents, is being able to insert a missing word in a sentence or passage given a bank of words to choose from. So those are some activities, some skills that students that we use in school. And when children have difficulty with comprehension, they're having difficulty understanding what they read. They might be great at decoding. They might be able to read the words on the page. They just don't know what they read. They might have difficulty being able to recall or retell, identifying characters, sequence of events, and so forth. They will benefit from activities where they can match sentences to pictures that represent the sentence, putting sequences of events in order, and that's with sentences or pictures, comparing events and characters of 2 different stories, and discussing the most important part of an informational text, for example. And by the way, all of this is laid out in the handouts that have been provided. So here's some examples. So we have sentences and then pictures. And so if I can read a pig in a bin and I find the picture that matches that, I've shown that I've been able to read the words and understand what they mean, and I can point to the picture that represents that sentence. Another activity for comprehension is putting events in order. So here's just a little story about a boy making a sandwich. And the student just takes the sentences and puts them in order. That's practice in putting events in order. And that practice in sequencing is helpful for comprehension. Some activities for older students might be comparing 2 stories and doing a word web of anything, really. So we can see here, this one is about bats. And then we have 5 details about bats. So being able to identify details in a text is important for comprehension. Okay, with that, I know that was a lot. Again, all of this information is also laid out in the Move On When Reading document. But we hope that that was sort of a nice overview, give you some background knowledge to be able to understand that text even better. And I'm going to introduce now Lisa Kogan from our SUSD Family Reading Connection, and she's going to talk about that group. Thank you, Lisa.
Jan. Well, hello, everyone. Sorry, and everyone online as well. My name is Lisa Kogan, and I have two struggling readers here in your school district. My youngest daughter is in grade 2, and we noticed early on that she was having trouble. My oldest daughter is in grade 4, and she continues to struggle. But they are being provided with a lot of support. We are lucky that we have some fabulous teachers here in the district, as well as other supports like the reading lab, tutoring after school that are available to help my kids. But as a parent, I reached out to Jan as the district dyslexia coordinator, just wondering, what other resources do we have in our community? I'm not from Sarita, so I'm not sure what's in the local community and what other support can I provide to my kids. I don't know if anyone in this room has, I know you work because you're the reading interventionist, that you work with kids that struggle. But as a parent, when you're watching your kids struggle, it's really scary when you don't know how to help them and you don't know who to ask for help or where to go to get that help. So together with, and this is Heather, another parent who's part of our reading group, and we have other parents as well as a local dyslexia specialist. We've had teachers that have joined our group and many parents just in some way sharing our stories, how we can help one another, what are some things that, hey, this worked for my kid, or have you talked to so-and-so at this site? This would be the best person to reach out to not only find those resources and things that we need, but also just to have that support, to be there, to listen, and just share our stories and try to find some ways together that not only how can we help each other and help our families and help our kids close those gaps with their reading when they're struggling, help each other, because it's quite a challenge as a parent when you're not an educator and you don't have this terminology and you're not sure what to do or where to go. And we do meet once a month. We'll be meeting tomorrow night, actually. So we would love to have you join. We would love to hear your story and just find out if there's a way that either through the district folks that support our group, at your school site, what support's available to you, or how we as a parent community can try to support you. So we would love to meet you. And it's a brand new group. Actually, we just started this year. So we hope to grow. And as we grow, then we'll be able to better support each other.
Thank you so much, Lisa. And all of our reading specialists have flyers about the Family Reading Connection group that you can get from them. That has the Google Meets link. That's the word I'm looking for, a link on it, so that you can join us at any time. And we have some flyers on the group here too. And thank you so much, Lisa, for talking about just the community of people who have been a part of that. I think all the parents have benefited from knowing that they're not the only ones, knowing, oh, there's a mom out there who feels just like I do. And another nice thing, our local dyslexia specialist, Cheryl Anthony, has been so generous with her time and sharing her expertise. She has been a part of every single meeting, and she's always there to lend literally an expert's advice because she is an expert on reading struggles. And so we really thank her for that. And then also the teachers who come and join, we answer any and all questions that we're able to. And if we don't know an answer, we're going to find the answer. And so we do hope to see more people joining that community. And yes, Heather, and we're on Facebook, the Sarita Family Reading Connection. Thank you, Heather. Okay, and with that, we are opening up for questions, if there are any questions from Anyone here or online? Yes. So that's a big question, and I do wish Cheryl was here because she is literally the expert, as I said. I have some training in dyslexia, so I'm happy to answer what I'm able to. And then I would invite you to attend tomorrow night to our meeting because Cheryl's going to be talking. Lisa's going to be talking at that meeting, and then Cheryl's going to be talking about dyslexia and what it is. But just very broadly, dyslexia is a phonological processing disorder. The little boy in the video, that's the kind of errors that students with dyslexia typically make. That's one sort of symptom that you might see. You might see that they are forgetful. They have difficulty sometimes with organizational skills. They have difficulty with remembering the letters, and you're trying to learn letters can be really, really difficult for them. Those phonemic awareness activities can be really, really difficult. Rapid automatic naming, which we're now starting to screen for 3 times a year with the Universal and Dyslexia Screener. That can sometimes flag students who may have indicators for dyslexia. So in school, we don't actually diagnose for dyslexia, but we can, through the screening that ADE, the Arizona Department of Education, requires us to do, we can find students who may have indicators for dyslexia, and then we give them the interventions that are targeted towards their specific skill deficit. So we can see it as early as preschool, really, for some students. Yes. That's a good question. Thank you for asking that, Lisa. That would be your reading specialist. So whatever school you're at, every elementary school has a reading specialist. And so you would contact the reading specialist at that school for support and more information. Mm-hmm. Yes, sure. Yeah, so the question is that 20 minutes recommended a day of reading with your child, what do you do during that time? What are you expecting them to do? Should they be following along, or are you just reading to them? And that really depends on what a child is able to do. So what we never want to do is put pressure on a child to be reading, I'm going to make you read every single word on this page. That's a nightmare, and we want to avoid that because that will then cause stress. And we want reading always to be a pleasurable experience, and we want children to always feel successful. So with reading with your child, it starts off with just reading to them. And then when they're ready, usually it happens naturally that they start kind of following along, and they'll start kind of mimicking you as you're reading. And then eventually sometimes they can read some of the words or even retell the whole story. So it really depends on a student's ability. But the most important thing is reading. Even if they don't want to, if they don't want to be the one reading, that's okay. They're tired. It's been a long day at school. Their brains need a rest. Just having that time to read with your child is so important. It helps develop their vocabulary. It helps develop their comprehension skills. When we talk about comprehension, we're not talking about reading comprehension. We're talking broadly comprehension. Do I know what this means? And when we read to children, we're taking away the cognitive overload of trying to decode the words on the page, read a sentence with fluency and accuracy, and gain meaning from the text. That's a lot for a struggling reader. So when we can just let them sit back and enjoy a story, and they take it in, and they know what happened in this story, and they can tell the story, and they're learning vocabulary from the story and a whole lot more. There's so much benefit to that. Mm-hmm. Okay, well, I think we're ready to wrap it up. What I will say is, before we end here, this is the third event like this we've had this year in the district auditorium. And moving forward next year, we want to always be available to support parents who receive the Move On When Reading parent letter, so that we can explain what that terminology is, how they can support their children, and also always invite them into our learning community, so that we can be partners in your child's education and making sure that they come out of our schools as successful readers. So next year, we may have these events here in the district auditorium. We may have them at school sites, individual school sites. That's something that we will be talking about, but we will continue to have these events so that we can continue to develop partnerships with our parents and provide the support that their students need. Okay, thank you.